Hello and welcome to Carnivorist Chats. My name is James, your host. I started this podcast to help other folks share their own healing stories and to interview thought leaders and experts in the carnivore, keto, and low-oxalate space. Before we begin, I'd like to give a shout out to Equip Foods and the Carnivore Bar. As an affiliate, you can use the link in the show notes to get a discount on their products when you check out using the code Carnivorist. Thanks in advance for listening, subscribing, and any likes or shares. And now, on with the podcast. Hi, Jeannie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Good to see you, and thank you for taking the time out of your Sunday to come chat with me.
Oh, I'm honored to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise.
A warrior. Huh?
The feeling is mutual, and we'll get into your journey in a few minutes. I'm just going to let a few other people log on. We've had a lot of great questions submitted that I shared with you, and we'll get into those later on in our chat too, because I think we can help some people out who are sort of new to this low oxalate space and discovering that may have been an issue for them, like it was for both of us and is for both of us. I tell you, it's
really killed us, right?
This is it. This is it. And if it wasn't for our good friend Sally.
Amen. Sally, she's the woman. That's all I can say. I just really feel blessed because I think there's a lot of people walking around that are very, very, very ill and don't have any clue that this is the easy answer to what they're going through.
I completely agree. I just look at myself as a past vegetarian and vegan thinking I was out there healing the planet and healing my body. And in actual fact, I nearly killed myself through putting all those high-ox plant foods in me.
Amen. But I wasn't a vegan or a vegetarian, but I would say I leaned more to plant-based foods. I would have like a little piece of meat, like because I thought I had to, and the rest would be like, as being Italian, I would make vegetables and pasta, and then more vegetables and pasta, and then big pots of Swiss chard with beans, and I was getting sicker and sicker as each year went by, and I'm older than you, so. It's a good lesson for you because if you actually, know about what actually happened to me and how the misery I went through and the surgeries I went through and everything that I went through, it's a good lesson because at your age, you're going to have more years where you're going to be healthy than I am. I'm so blessed right now because I feel better than I have in 30 years, but I was really sick. Yeah, God is good. But I was really sick for a long time and I just kept getting sicker and it was like a nightmare and I didn't know why. And people around me were like, oh, come on, Jean, this can't be real. Nobody can have all this stuff. Jean's in the hospital again. Now what? One of those types of things. But I just kept praying and asking God to show me what it was. And actually getting sicker was the thing that showed me what it was.
Let's Jeannie, first of all, we've got quite a few people have joined us now. So just as you were talking, first of all, I know I'm going to butcher your last name. So how do you pronounce it correctly, please?
DeAngelis.
DeAngelis. So Jeannie DeAngelis. Jeannie, where are you currently residing? Where are you located?
Long Island.
Nicely done. And for those that don't know that have joined today, I am joining you today from the beautiful island of Bermuda that don't know. It still feels like summer. It's really hot outside. So it's nice to be in here in the air conditioning chatting with you today. Jeannie, what I think we'll do is, because you were just touching a little bit on your story, what I'd like to do, if we can, is just go back to the beginning and just go and tell us about how you came to be the low-ox grandma, how you found this way, what happened to you along the journey. I've been following some of your Instagram stories and what you went through. I mean, mine was terrible as well, but in comparison, you are unbelievable in everything you've come through and how well you're doing now. How did it all begin? How did low-ox grandma, where did it come to fruition?
Well, if I think back to being a small little girl, now that I know what I'm looking at, I started going through things in my teens.
Yeah.
And in my 20s, I had 2 surgeries. I grew a tumor in my abdominal wall. I had to have a hysterectomy when I was 27 years old. And then I would say in my 30s, my thyroid problem started going on. Like at 32, I was on thyroid medicine. you know, the fact that doctors don't look for root causes, you know, and they just say, well, here, you need to take Synthroid, like as if you're some kind of broken piece of machinery that if you just take this pill, everything's going to be all right. Then I started with UTIs. And I just have to say, the entire time from when I was a little girl, kindergarten, first grade, intractable anxiety, separation anxiety. I suffered. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, suffered with OCD, all these things. And then, so in my 30s, it was, I would say, you know, the UTIs. And then in my 40s, I started with low blood sugar, hypoglycemia, like passing out in work, you know, with a 37 blood sugar. And then popping almonds in my mouth to try to bring my blood sugar back up. Hello. And then the diverticulitis started. And that was really, really, really bad. And that segued from that into, I ended up with C. diff because I was on antibiotics constantly from UTIs and diverticulitis. So, you know, I'd go to the hospital, like, well, I have a stomach ache. You know, they'd stick me in the CT scan. We don't even want to discuss that. And I'd say, I'm going home now. And they'd say, if you go home now, I can't guarantee what's going to happen to you. And I'd end up in the hospital hooked up to an IV. And so it ended up that you know, when you have C. diff, you can't be on antibiotics all the time because you're never going to get out of it.
That's right.
It just kills off all the bacteria. I ended up having a fecal transplant, and that lasted until my next UTI because you have to understand that as I was going through all of this, I was still eating this way, thinking that was going to make me better. You know, I would get my juicer out and I would juice it, kiwis, lemons with the rind on them. You know, me trying to heal myself, I was just making myself sicker and sicker. I wasn't getting any better. And you know, I'm sure you're a very bright person. I listen to you. I see that you are. What happened up here that we couldn't put these two things together? Was it the you know, the rhetoric that we hear that this is the way we get healthy and we couldn't push that away to actually see that it was making us sick? I don't know.
Jeannie, I wish I could go back in time and shake my younger self a few years back. You know, for those that don't know my story, I was vegetarian for literally decades and then became vegan, and my health went off a cliff after the 5th year. I should have noticed in hindsight, and I've been doing these recent podcasts with Carnivorist Chats and Boundless Body Radio, and I'm telling my story again. I often say that I should have been smarter and noticed the symptoms coming on earlier. But I thought, no, this can't be the diet. I'm going to continue firing away like you with these smoothies and kale and spinach and greens because I've seen all the stuff online. This is the diet that is supposed to heal you. And I just ended up getting worse and worse, and to the point where I was bedbound and literally almost dying. I went down to 127 pounds. I was bleeding on my bowels, and COVID hit, and I had no insurance, and I still was at it until one day God and Sally Norton, the both of them, came
God
and spoke.
Sent Sally Norton?
That's it.
Dropped it off the cloud?
I do believe he did, because I said, this is enough. I went and searched online and said, are these symptoms congruent with plant-based way of eating, vegan way of eating? And, you know, I searched on YouTube and Sally's presentation came up, right? And I watched her presentation, and then I found her presentations on Carnivore Cast, and the rest is history. I thought, yeah, this is it. I'm doing this all wrong. And I began to lower my oxalate consumption. But prior to that, I mean, I was banging away like you at almonds and spinach and chia seeds and kiwi fruit and the worst offenders.
It's such a, I like to use the word diabolical, because the more you eat these foods, the more constipated you get. So the more you're trying to be not constipated. So you just keep eating more of it, thinking that that's going to cure your constipation. And no, I don't want to be, offend anybody, but it's like, I would say that it was like trying to pass a brick. Okay?
Yes.
Now I understand why. I didn't at that time. I guess glass does slow things down, right? It does. Glass shards in your intestines and colon. But it didn't. At first I had to have a colon resection. Okay?
I was going to ask you, Jeannie, what was the next step? We've got you. God forbid it. God bless you. You've gone through C. diff, and what happens now?
So you have to understand that as I'm going through C. diff, I'm constantly having UTIs. And I have to tell you, the anxiety level and the frustration, even from the people around me, like being up to here with me. I
Yeah.
don't know if you went through that, but it's like everybody in my life was like, she likes being sick, or it's all in her head, or she's crazy, and she's finding surgeons to. Surgeons always do colon resections because somebody's crazy and goes in there and says, "I'm crazy. I would like you to do a surgery." It was like, so I had all of that pressure on me too, of people that I cared about really not believing me.
Yes.
So you have to like second guess your own sanity and say, well, is this just me? I'm just thinking this is happening to me.
And well, this and Jeannie, you tied into something very important, because one of the symptoms for me was that insufferable brain fog that came on due to this, because it was wrecking my gut. And we all know about the gut-brain connection, right?
Right.
And with that brain fog became that inability to think clearly, as we all know it. I describe it almost as like a medicine head when you take medicine and you just feel
Right.
balloon head. But then the anxiety, the depression, it was a crazy time. And then people, like you said, just thought, he's got to be making it up. This can't be. I don't see any of these other symptoms. But little did they know that I was suffering immeasurably just in silence, right? And because I didn't know at that time what was going on. So
Right.
sorry to interrupt your train of thought, because
No,
this
no,
is an
no.
incredible story.
My train is constantly moving, so you don't worry about my train. Um, you know, I had the colon resection. As soon as I had the colon resection, as soon as I had it, I was in the hospital. I was having blockages.
Oh,
Now, I don't know if you know what it's like to have an intestinal blockage, but I don't. Did you have one?
yes, indeed. Chia seeds. Thank you.
Well, that is probably the most pain. And I had an 8 pound, 6.5 ounce baby, and I'm telling you,
Oh,
I would rather have 3 of those in a row than have a blockage. That's how painful it was. And then right after at Christmas, I ended up in a ward where people with blockages, because on Christmas Eve I had a huge blockage, pain. I mean, it was awful. And I spent 7 days there with an NG tube. They got it to open, which was good. And it was from an artichoke.
wow.
Lord. And so I came home after that, and I ended up with this huge bulge on one side of my abdomen, right under my breast, all the way down to my pelvic. I had an incisional hernia from the weakened connective tissue, because this doesn't happen if your connective tissue is healthy and strong. You don't even have diverticulitis if your connective tissue it's their little hernias, So I went to the doctor, and he said, you have a huge hernia. Well, when they opened me up, finally, it gets better. This is fun.
Oh yeah.
They opened me up, and all my intestines had fallen out. They had adhered together because you want to know why. And now that I know all of this, I understand everything so much more clearly. If you're sanding your insides, your body has to heal all those little wounds. So your fibroblasts, which is what God puts in us to heal us, so that when you have a surgery or whatever, your fibroblasts are your fibrinogen goes up, and your fibroblast goes to that area to heal it. But if your whole body is being injured all the time, your fibrinogen levels are so high. So what happened was, because of having such high fibrinogen levels, I had so many adhesions, and everything was just stuck together. They had to undo my intestines, put them back in, and then what they did was they put a big piece of mesh about 12.5 by 7 inches into my gut, from here to here. And from the second they put it in, I was in agony. And all it did, because I came home, I made some celery juice.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to get better now.
Yeah.
Home.
Oh boy.
Well, the scar tissue it was so bad that if you put your hand on my belly, it felt like there was a hand under my skin. That's how much scar tissue there was. And I started having more blockage, and they kept opening me up, cutting the scar tissue off the mesh and leaving it there. So honestly, after the second emergency surgery, I was like, God, please, just take me home. I'm going to start crying. I don't want to cry.
It's
I was
okay.
like, just
I
let
will
me,
too.
just let me out of here because I can't do this. I was so petrified. And in the hospital, I saw such horrors. I said, this is what's in store for me for the rest of my life. And all I want to do is be well. That's all I want. But God heard my prayer. I'm just going to say it, okay? I'm going to tell you. The Lord heard me. I didn't hear him, but he heard me. I went and I got the mesh taken out. Thank you, God. I got that piece of garbage taken out of me. The Lord had healed. The one good thing about having a lot of scar tissue, the incisional hernia that was up under my breast all the way down to my pelvis had healed itself. So scar tissue is good in some.
Yes.
I'm not even going to tell you about the other little surgeries because that's like a whole nother story. But I got worse. I kept eating what I was eating. I would go to Whole Foods and get 2 big, gigantic heads of Swiss chard 3 times a week. Okay? Hello? I was killing myself. So anyway, fast forward, I had another small surgery. It was a gynecological surgery because everything is falling apart. I had urinary incontinence. They put a sling in. They took it out. You know, it was just like, you know, a nightmare. I was like, how am I even alive? And when I had gotten out of the hospital after that last surgery, I got vertigo, gastritis, and I ended up with vulvodynia. Now, I just want to tell you one little aside about that. My mother had breast cancer. She had intractable anxiety. She ended up with vulvodynia. And in the end, she ended up with pulmonary fibrosis. That's what ended up killing her, okay? Now that I know about what oxalates do to the body, I know that my mother died of pulmonary fibrosis. She died of oxalate toxicity. We could have saved her if we knew. But I was on the same road. And I remembered about the Vulva Pain Foundation. So I just looked there. And when I looked there, it said, if you want the pain to stop, you have to go on this kind of a diet. And it was a low oxalate diet. So I was laying on the couch, you know, moaning day and night between gastritis and burning down there. I mean, I have no dignity anymore. I mean, it's at this point, I don't care what I have to say to shake people out of it so that they can wake up and be healthy. So I would lay there with an ice pack between my legs, crying. My husband would be like, honey, you need to calm down. Honey, 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 honey. So I went on the low-ox diet, and it was like having a burner on the stove on high, like the flame was really high. And each day that I stayed on the diet, the burning went down, as if somebody was turning the burner, you know, like the flame on a... And the burning started to go away. I was like, okay, there's something with this. Okay, there's something with this.
I had the same experience, Jeannie. Same thing and sorry to interrupt your train of thought. Folks should know that, you know, when I was at my sickest and found Sally's presentation, Lost Seasonality in the Overconsumption of Plants. It's on YouTube. Google it for those folks that are joining us that haven't seen it. And I started to just dial back those oxalate-laden foods. I hadn't even added animal foods yet. I was just taking what I knew already in the vegan diet and saying, okay, I'm not going to take these oxalate bombs, which I had been eating, and just dial them back. You hit the nail on the head. It was like a knob, just a dimmer switch going down a little bit. And I thought, okay, there's some hope here. Yeah. There really is.
And, you know, in between there, I was in the emergency room, like grabbing the garbage pail outside with such bad vertigo. And I just want to tell you that the lower level of all of this, I felt like I had the flu for 20 years. I was like this. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go to the store. I would be like, oh, I can't, you know. So as I got rid of this stuff, my vertigo went away. My gastritis went away. My vulvodynia went away. And 6 months in, Now you have to remember, like, I'm the crazy one in the family. I'm the one that was nuts with anxiety and fear, and you start to think, well, it's got to be me. There's got to be, I have to have a problem. I don't trust God enough, or I don't have enough faith, or whatever I was thinking. And all of a sudden it was like, I felt like I was living my life like a balloon that was filled with so much helium that at any second it could just burst. And all of a sudden one night I was just sitting there and all of the anxiety just went out of my body.
Oh,
it was
amazing.
like every nerve ending was on fire. And it was just like all of my nerves they just calmed down. And lumps in my breasts went away. I had a lump the size of an egg in one of my breasts that just disappeared. I couldn't put my arms next to my breast, because we know that oxalate is attracted to breasts. I guess it's a hormone thing. I don't even know. I'm not the scientist Sally is. I'm just a victim, right?
This is
You're
it.
a little bit more science savvy than I am, but I'm a victim. I went through hell trying to be healthy. And so, I go through ups and downs because I have a lot of stored oxalate. I'm much older than you. So, but each time I try to liken it to an oasis in a desert. I kind of run or to first base or second base. In between, it's really hard, but it's getting easier. I started my third year, and those oases are miraculous. That's all I can say. Okay.
Well, Jeannie, let's pause there for a second, and I again apologize. Let's talk. One of the great questions that came in, and we'll get to all the questions at the end, but is how long does this process take? And I often answer people that ask me, I say, how long is a piece of string? It depends on a number of factors, right? Your body, your diet prior to it, how much oxalate-laden foods you're eating, where the oxalates are stored in your body,
Right.
how good your body it is at detoxing these oxalates. So,
well,
go ahead.
There's one little. So, we know that Susan Owens has done a lot of work with autistic children and stuff. So,
Yes.
in the middle of this, my husband goes to me, because I have an autistic grandson, and there's the autism around me. He goes to me, "You're acting just like Jude, who's my grand." He said, "You're worse than I've ever seen you." He goes, "I want you to go, and I want you to get diagnosed. I think you might be on the spectrum." I was like, oh God, I don't have enough problems now. I'm on the spectrum. Well, guess what? Yes, I am. So, of course, that puts me in the category where I'm warehousing probably 3 times more than a neurotypical person. Then you add to that, genetic components like MTHFR, people on the spectrum a lot of times, and people that have MTHFR, they don't have the proper B vitamin. They don't work properly. So
Yes.
if you have low B6, you can't process the oxalates right. You have all those antibiotics that you've been taking, so you're missing. There was one question from some lady that said, "What about?" Sorry.
Yes, I know the question. You're talking about Oxalobacter formigenes, the bacteria, right?
Come with me because I can't pronounce those. Whatever one round of antibiotics at 6 years old, or 2 years old, or an ear infection at 1 year old destroys that bacteria. It's a very fragile bacteria. So that means if I'm a little baby and they give me a couple of rounds of antibiotics and I get an ear infection, I don't have the bacteria anymore in my intestines to deal with this stuff. So then you're feeding me pizza and wheat and spinach smoothie, well, let's give Johnny a little spinach smoothie. And Johnny cannot deal with any of this now because he doesn't have the bacteria in his intestines to deal with it. And people say, well, how about we take it? It's a very fragile bacteria, and they haven't gotten to the point now where they can reproduce this for human consumption, right?
That's it.
So
yeah. The question came from, and just so you know, came from looks like a person called TQ Pix, and the question was: is the probiotic Oxalobacter formigenes helpful, and does vitamin K2 help with oxalate dumping? We just talked about the Oxalobacter, and I look back on my journey, Jeannie, and as I tell people, I had so many infections when I was a vegetarian. They're really, and as you had female related stuff, I had male related stuff. in its swelling of the testes and pain down there in my scrotum all the time, excruciating. And looking back now, they were infections, epididymitis it was called, and the go-to at that time was ciprofloxacin. And I must have taken so much ciprofloxacin in my youth and in my 20s. And, you know, they have that saying called when you're floxed from these fluoroquinolone antibiotics. I'm convinced I was, and I don't know how I had any gut bacteria left. So I was set up for this disaster, as you say.
You know, the thing of it is that this is why people end up with, I used to take the Cipro too, and then at one point I couldn't tolerate it anymore. You're toxic, you know, so the food is raising your toxic levels. So you are so toxic. Now when you take Cipro, if you weren't toxic, I guess maybe, I mean, I don't like Cipro. I don't want to take it ever. Maybe your body can handle it. But when you're so toxic, you're filled with so many toxins from the plants, and then you take a drug that's toxic. Now your body can't process it. Your liver is overwhelmed. Your body's overwhelmed. And it's a disaster. Not only that, but the oxalate, you know, prevents infection from being dealt with by the immune system. So
yes.
I have, the other thing that I have is I'm a panda. I found this out too. So I had high strep titers and all that kind of stuff. Pediatric autoimmune neurological disorder, which kind of goes hands in hands with the spectrum thing. But my strep titers would never go down. My strep titers right now are normal. Okay. My fibrinogen levels are normal. Okay. So I was killing myself. I don't worry really anymore. Sometimes I'll bother Sally. I'll say, oh my God, look at the dye. I'm going to have scar tissue. I have a lot of scar tissue, but I'm not worried about it anymore. I know that my body can deal with what's there. Sally told me that it will eventually break down. Some of it will break down on its own. And as the years go by, since my last surgery, since I've been off the oxalate, my belly, where I've had all this surgery, is getting softer and softer.
Yes. Yes.
And you see, what's good about it for you and me, Jim, is that we have the heart to want to help people.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want to hear it. They don't want to give up their spinach and their chocolate and their smoothies and all that. But we're going to keep talking, right?
That's it, Jeannie. So let's talk about quickly. Let's talk about for those, and thank you for all the people that have joined in. Lindsay, I see you. Michael, I see you. I see all of our lovely low-ox warrior friends in here. So thank you, everyone, for joining. We're going to have all the questions you submitted answered at the end. But let's talk to some folks about what the typical high-oxalate foods are, that you give some examples for them. And I can, too.
Okay, so we can relate that to some of these questions that we got also. Like, people want to know the whole list. How can
You got it.
Listen, if you take the high offenders, chocolate, spinach, chards, beets. I was roasting beets in the oven and eating them like apples.
Me too. My wife, as a plant-based chef, we used to not, and Jeannie, this is crazy. We used to have beets, so many, because it grows really well. They grow really well in Bermuda, and then eat the beet tops, which are even more laden.
Oh, I put them with my Swiss chard.
Yeah.
Oh. Put together.
Oh. I shudder to think. Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
So, potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the French fries. If you have an autistic child, do not give them French fries, please. I'm begging you, okay? Because they start to climb the walls. You know, wheat, buckwheat, chocolate, tea, sweet potatoes, regular potato, all potatoes, nuts and seeds, and almond milk and almond flour. I see these people on Instagram that have millions of followers that they're poisoning with almond flour. Okay, when I ate almond flour, I ate a loaf of almond flour bread, and that afternoon, the vitreous gel in the back of my eye broke off, and I, till this day, have what's called a Weiss ring in my eye, which is a circle of the gel that just floats in my range of vision. So if you want to keep eating, I don't want to be like too much of a mother or a grandmother, but if you want to keep eating the almond flour and the almonds and the sweet potatoes, good luck to you. And I will not say I told you so.
And Jeannie, let me pause you there for a quick second. One of the questions that was submitted was from Turquoise Mariposa, said, if you peel and boil a red potato, does that reduce the oxalates? And in general, are red potatoes lower than other kinds of potatoes.
Yes, little red potatoes are lower than the other. You can have like 5 or 4 little tiny. But you see, I don't know. Maybe it's me. I'm going to ask you. Okay. I nearly died. I am not looking for an excuse anymore to eat this. Some people say to me, well, don't you miss those foods? Well, here's the thing. If somebody offered me $1 million and said, eat this Trader Joe's chocolate bar with the almonds in it, I would
Oh,
say, keep your money, okay? Because I don't need to be sick. I don't need to have money and be so sick that I don't even want to live. I would rather have no money, and I'd rather eat ceiling tile than to feel the way I felt there before. And so I'm not really looking for excuses to eat. I eat very little vegetables, very small amounts. I'll eat maybe a little bit of coleslaw, maybe a couple of little pieces of cauliflower, but I'd rather have a steak.
you got it. And let me answer your question, Jeannie, is when I, as us men tend to do, go full throttle into things, don't we? I mean, I said, okay, well, I learned all about oxalates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate them all from my diet. I'm going to go complete carnivore. I went gung-ho, just dairy and meats, and that was it. And boy, oh boy, did my body tell me that was not the right way to do it. I mean, I started dumping like crazy. I mean, for the first little while, I felt pretty good after I got fat adapted. But then it hit. The pain came back, the joint pain.
And new ones.
Yeah, and new ones. And thank goodness we have Sally as a resource and all our low-ox friends. And I said, I got to add some. So I've added low-ox fruits back in because I swore, and I swear down, I'm never touching another vegetable in my life if I can do it. So that's what works for me. And I tell people all the time, do what works for you. Some people may have some diabetic issues that they can't have the sugar and fruits and need to add the vegetables back in for them. But just do what works for you.
Listen, I don't want to be one of these people that blame everything on oxalates, but
Yes.
I had everything and it was oxalates. So I'm sorry to have to inform you, even this blood sugar problems, I have to say, I don't know what the outcome is going to be for a person if they actually get off the oxalate, how their blood sugar problems are going to change. They might go away, because I had so many things that seemed unrelated, from my thyroid to my breast to my intestines to my stomach to my bottom to my joints. It was all one thing. It was all the oxalate food. I got rid of the oxalate things. My thyroid's better. My migraines are better. My joint pain is gone. I have no rotacuff problems, no arm problems, no problems opening jars because my thumb is sore. My intestines are night and day. They don't hurt me anymore. I don't, and I have no anxiety, and I sleep at night, and I can actually have some joy in life that I never had. I wanted to die.
Yes.
I can't do this. I can't go another round into a ward with people walking around with NG tubes and doctors telling me you're going to be here 3 times a year with the same thing. I haven't been back, okay? And I'd like to go back there and just walk around in that hallway and ask those people what they're eating and say to them, you know what? This doesn't have to be your lot in life. This doesn't have to be your epitaph that you died because your intestines kept seizing up and closing off. It's horrible.
So Jeannie, let's touch back a little bit, because people have asked online, where can we find information on all the low ox and high ox foods? And I know you know the answer, and I'll let you tell how this all gets kind of frustrating, but there is a way.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying before. Cut out the high offenders. Don't worry about whether a Brussels sprout has too many oxalates. Cut out the high offenders. Slowly reduce them a little at a time. If you're eating sweet potatoes, stop eating sweet potatoes. Stop eating 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line. Cut out the spinach. 2, 3 weeks down the line. Cut out the nuts and seeds. Slowly bring it down. For me, this is what I that's what I did. Now there's a few lists around, but Sally will tell you that they're inaccurate. Okay, so that's what confuses people. They say, well, one list says cucumber, blah, blah. Don't worry about it. If you're not eating the nuts and the seeds, and you're not eating the potatoes, and you're not eating, tomato sauce and drinking tea and eating chocolate, making buckwheat pancakes, that's a good place to start. Okay, no Swiss chard. don't be sauteing your spinach and eating piles of it. You know, people say, well, can I boil the spinach? The only analogy I can give is if you put a glass into water and boil it, it doesn't melt and go away. It's still glass. We're talking about a glass-like molecule that I don't think that it does that much to get rid of it. And why? Who cares? We don't need spinach to live. Mm-hmm. We get more vitamins from a little piece of steak than we from a whole bunch of spinach.
Hallelujah. This is it. This is it. And Jeannie, I know one of the things that you said that made me smile one day is you call yourself the oxalate evangelist. And well, we have to be, don't we, right?
And and it's like, I was so sick. And if I could get better from all of that, then people that have a whole hell of a lot less than what I was suffering with, you were suffering with, can get better too. And what does it take? Cutting 20 foods out of your diet and living life like a human being, or hobbling around with a cane and eating peanut butter? I mean, I can't put those two things together. In my brain, it's like, get rid of it. Right? Yep. I mean,
I agree. And just circling back, so for those folks that ask about lists, if you want to, I did this initially, and it was a great resource because I was very scared and very lonely and didn't know if there was anyone else out there that had this oxalate journey. So I went and found Susan Owen's Facebook group, you know, the Trying Low Oxalate. Right. And God bless the Low Ox coach joined her, Monique Addinger. She's right. in there. They do have a list, don't they, Jeannie, of foods that are high and low?
Yeah, they do. They do. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And the food is all across the bottom. You know, grains, commercial food products, supplements, and it's very, 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 very helpful. Mm-hmm. And it's a great group too because, you know, we have our little community. I got thrown off Facebook, so I'm not there. But
I'm not either anymore.
But you know, it's a great group of people because the moderators are extremely knowledgeable, and they're very available, and they've all been through it, so they can kind of walk you through it. And there's a whole community of people that are going through this kind of stuff together, and it's very helpful. I think that the community is growing, right?
It is. It surely is. I mean, it surely is. And just for someone asked for if we could post links, my suggestion would be to if you're on Facebook, go on there, search Trying Low Oxalates as a Facebook group, request to be added, then message one of the admins on there, and they will send you the list, the spreadsheet. Now, just let me preface this. Even Susan Owens herself, Sally Norton herself, Jeannie will tell you that the list is okay at best because we as a community,
that's kind of like why I didn't say it, because
well, I need to let people know because, you know, I went through the spreadsheet, and in the spreadsheet there's a lot of, you know, because so much more testing needs to be done on these foods, and we need the money, so they often ask people if they could assist by helping pay for some of the testing on these foods. Me too.
I had foods that I wanted to know, you know, like a lot of times people think gluten-free is low oxalate. It's not.
No.
So you got rid of the wheat, but you have a problem. So I had sent a few pastas that I had, you know, just for people in my life to recommend that. They were like, I can't live without pasta, I'm Italian. I'm like, well, you know. So, you know, I sent a couple of different pastas to be tested, a few things to be, and one of them was a sweet potato pasta. Sweet potato. I think it had the more oxalates than anything on the list. It was like through the roof, and I was eating that all the time. Oh, aren't these good? They were like crystal noodles made out of potato starch or something. I don't know, sweet potato starch.
So Jeannie, we've hurt some folks' feelings here by telling them some high ox stuff. We've gone down all the almond treats that people eat. We've gone down the spinach and the kale that are supposed to be healthy. We've gone into chocolate. Oh my goodness. By the way, for folks that don't know, coffee is generally low ox, so we're not going to be that mean. Sally will tell you too. However, decaf can be pretty medium to high oxalate, if I recall Sally saying that.
I think the regular.
Yeah. So let's tell them some alternatives they can go with. What is some stuff you reach for in your diet, Jeannie, that is low ox in terms of fruit or veg or anything?
Well, in the fruit category, when I eat it, I eat melons and grapes, pretty much papayas and mangoes. Those are pretty much my go-tos.
Yeah.
If I'm having kefir, I'm having a little histamine problem right now, but I know it'll go away. I would put like a little piece of frozen banana and some frozen cherries in there to make like that's so good with a little honey. It's fantastic, and that's in the fruit department. But I don't do a lot of that either. Watermelon, that type of thing.
Yeah.
In the vegetable department, like I said, you know, bok choy,
Yes.
cabbage,
Yep.
mushrooms, which some people are against. A little bit of onion isn't horrible. Arugula, if you have to have a salad, and it's really good. A lot of people that have like completely destroyed their intestines with having them sanded for years. A lot of times, even though they any kind of raw vegetable, they can't get it. It just doesn't work.
Yeah,
So
that doesn't.
you can
Not for
have
me anymore.
salad. You can have some salads as long as it doesn't have those little baby Swiss chards with the red stem. You know what I mean? Or spinach. You can have romaine. You can have butter lettuce. You can have arugula. You can make yourself a salad. But I find that I can't digest those things anymore.
Yeah,
So
you said it.
gut heals.
So one of the questions was about banana. Bananas are an interesting one for that person that asked the question. They're actually what I use right now. I'm only eating bananas, which are my local bananas that grow here in season, and blueberries. Those are my things that I use to keep sort of. Bananas can be medium to low depending on what type of banana they are. I've understood. So even some bananas can be sort of mid-high, but I think the local bananas, the Cavendish, tend to be a little medium to low, and I use blueberries for my fruit.
And the ripeness matters, right?
That's right.
The less ripe it is, the higher the oxalate, the more
Correct.
ripe it is, the better it is. I guess, the ripening process probably does something to the demons. They're demons. Those oxalates are demons.
That's it. Yeah, for the person asking, blueberries tend to be lower oxalate. The berries you want to avoid typically are the blackberries and the raspberries. You can kind of sort of see the little spiky things on the raspberries, can't you? I know those aren't the oxalate, but they are very high. But blueberries are low, typically, as Lindsay correctly said. That's why I'm using them and bananas in combination. I only have a handful in the evenings with some heavy whipping cream. It's my little treat for myself during the day. Jeannie, one of the questions asked, what does your typical day of eating look like right now?
Well, I do intermittent fasting. I don't eat from 8 till noon. So usually at lunch, I'll have like a rice cracker, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'll put a can of sardines on it. I was eating some dairy, but it's not agreeing with me right now. Or I'll have some chopped chicken liver and I'll put that on there. I don't eat a lot during the day. And then at dinner, I eat meat. I mean, I tend to eat more beef. I love the fat. The fattier, the better.
Yes, me too.
Right? And if I have a little coleslaw on the side or pickles, maybe I'll have some pickles, whatever. And then for treats, I try to make homemade ice cream. I make
nice.
Homemade,
me too.
I use Redmond's real salt. I used to be a big spice user. I don't use any of them anymore. I don't trust any of them. This is my motto. Plants are not our friends. They do not like us. Okay, so if it's a plant, don't ask me, what about this or what about that? It's a plant. It's not our friend. If you want to eat it, go ahead.
In my best Dr. Anthony Chafee voice, plants are trying to kill you.
They are.
That's what he says. All his podcasts, and he's right.
I need to do a cartoon, like the Angry Birds. We need to do the angry, spinach or whatever as they, But
that's it.
But you know what? The way that you feel when you eat meat, now you can talk about that. I mean, mm-hmm. I eat a steak sometimes for dinner, and I'm not a big eater, so it's hard for me to finish a whole steak. It's hard for me. But if I eat like maybe 6 ounces of a bloody steak, the next day I feel like I can fly. I feel like I could turn over cars. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, they're so nutritionally packed, these animal foods for us, as opposed to the plant foods, which are defending themselves so we can't get the nutrients out of them. So for me, coming from a vegetarian and vegan for 6 years almost background, and then adding meat back into my diet, it was like the ex-vegans say, the light switch came back on in my brain, in my physiology. I went from 128 pounds of emaciated skeletal, almost death, to now up to 170 pounds of muscle, and it's literally muscle, and you don't even have to work out that hard when you're eating carnivore to put on the muscle, because your body's just going, we're going to use this. And you, like you said, the energy is just unbelievable. I remember I was so fatigued, Jeannie, and exhausted every day. I could barely get out of bed. And now I'm going on walks with weights on my back, exercising, I'm back to work. I had lost my job. I wasn't able to work because I was so sick. It was just crazy.
I feel so bad. It's
Oh,
a
no.
thing to go through this. Besides the fact that we're healed, well, thank God for that, but also gives you a measure of compassion that maybe you wouldn't have had if you had just been okay. This morning, I just went out and did a 5-mile walk. I'm 68 years old. People are like, you're walking 5 miles? I'm like, yes.
You look fantastic, by the way. Fantastic.
Thank you. I feel, it was funny because one of my grandson's friends, my grandson lives with us, and one of his friends came over the other night. He goes, Grandma, he said, I was here when you were at your worst. You were at death's door. He goes, you look like a totally different person.
Yeah.
He said, I can't believe it. And because of that, he wanted to know what I did. And because of that, his mom and himself are both going low ox. So that's the best testimony that we have, is that what we, sometimes I talk so much that my own ears start to bleed. But you know what? The best testimony, and I had said this to you before, is a changed life, right?
Amen.
And that goes in spiritually, physically, health-wise, everything. You can talk till you're blue in the face, but if people actually see you get better, they can say, oh, I don't believe that. But how do you not believe it when you see a change like that? And the only thing you did was get rid of plant food.
Yep.
You didn't take any medicine. You didn't go to any surgeons. You just said, I'm not going to eat Swiss chard and beets anymore. And all of a sudden, you're like a new human being.
So, Jeannie, let's talk quickly, because I'm conscious of your time, and I want to get to some of the other questions for folks. Let's talk quickly about some tips and tricks as people go low ox that you may have employed along the way, that we've learned from people like, God bless her, Sally, and other folks, just as people are going through the dumping process, that they can ease the pain a little bit. Is there anything that you do personally?
Well, yeah, I think the thing that helps me the most, but I don't do it enough because I don't have the time, is my beautiful niece has a sauna in her house, and she's like, hey, Jeannie, you got to come over and go in the sauna. If I sit in that sauna, I reek for like 3 days after, which I guess is a good thing because it's coming out of me. I'm detoxing. But the sauna helps. The exercise helps. Being diligent with the lemon and the citrates help, because the citrates help to break down the oxalate, right? I know the science behind that. So I actually have it right here. I drink but my hair's going gray.
Hey, I'm there. My mind did early.
What is it? Okay. But anyway, so I put in here lemons, and I got all my citrates. I get the calcium citrate, the potassium citrate, and the magnesium citrate, all in power. Yes, infrared sauna, yes. And I put it in my water, so I'm sipping it through the day. I'm really getting that. And I put Redmond's real salt in here. And yes, Epsom salt baths help a lot also, right? And just having listen, let's be honest, okay? This is not an easy process. It took me 65 years to nearly kill myself this way, okay? It's not going to happen overnight. But every small step that I make, that I feel a little bit better and a little bit better, it's the thing that keeps me going, okay? I don't really have a choice, because if I go back to eating Swiss chard, I'll be dead in 3 years, okay? So what is my choice? I want to live. And the way that I feel in comparison to the way that I did feel, it's night and day. Am I perfect? No. Do I still have a little anxiety? That's my personality. I'm a little high strung. I have autism. I'm on the spectrum. I'm a little, I overdo it sometimes. But do I feel like I want to live? Yes. And no amount of spinach or peanut butter is worth not feeling this way. It's just not.
That's so true. For myself, I'm very, very similar to you, Jeannie. wake up in the mornings and I have my lemon water every morning, a couple of cups of lemon water, and sip on. I make sure I drink enough water and electrolytes combined during the day. A lot of minerals, because as we know, these oxalate buggers, they can sequester those minerals as they move out of our body. So we got to make sure we replenish our minerals.
People wonder why their bowels don't work.
That's it.
Okay, so you're eating these foods, you're paralyzing your intestinal tract with glass, okay? And then, these things are removing from your body the magnesium and the potassium and everything that you need to be able to, let's say, just poop.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't. You're like, I don't understand why. I had 3 green smoothies today and I can't poop. That's why you can't poop. You can't poop because you ate 3. And it's just so, the way that it all hooks together is kind of like amazing, right? Don't you think?
It's amazing. And someone just asked, what minerals do we need? I mean, Jeannie, you were talking about potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium. The thing is, if you tend to gravitate towards one, and I started off, believe me, I found out the hard way. I was supplementing with just salt and then just magnesium. The minerals in the body like to be in balance, specifically potassium, magnesium, and sodium. So if you can find one that works for you that has all those in balance, it's really good for someone.
He is very good. Element.
You got it. Yeah.
I like that one. That's really good. Yeah. And now that you just, I just think even, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. I'm more on the arts department, but I would say that even if you weren't taking supplemental minerals, you should. But just the fact that you're not eating all those oxalates, now whatever you're eating, you're getting more from anyway, right?
Correct. And someone asked, if you're eating meat, won't you get it all anyway? It honestly depends, because if your gut, like mine, is still compromised and still healing, it might not be able to absorb the minerals, especially if you're still oxalate in the midst of dumping, because as I mentioned, those oxalates will sequester the minerals. So the more that you have, I had to add a bunch, because when you're going through the change from keto and coming from vegan to carnivore, you are dumping a lot of fluid, excess fluid too. They call it the keto flu. But one of the best things you can do during that transition period is to make sure that you supplement with the minerals, because not only was I oxalate dumping probably a little, but I was also dumping a lot of retained water that I had from built up over the years. I was just puffy and swollen and everything. I mean, I just remember I was going to the bathroom constantly this first couple of weeks.
Somebody just said it just, she just said it messes up your minerals while you're oxalate dumping. Yes, oxalate dumping is like eating oxalates again, okay? That's why things show up that, you're not eating them, but your body is now eliminating them. And as they eliminate into your system, they're back in your blood. That's why the same way as if you were still eating spinach. So that's why it affects your minerals and why you have pain again, just as if, so that's why you have to do it really slowly and try to use the different tools that we talked about, Jim and I, take an Epsom salt bath. And also just hold on, you can get through this. If you're so sick that I didn't even talk about the kidney stones and all that. Yeah. I mean, but if you're able to go through a kidney stone or diverticulitis, and make it through that, you're a strong person. You can get through the elimination of oxalates, because there's no reward for kidney stone other than just getting it out. But there's a reward for getting through oxalate elimination, because on the other side of that, you're gonna heal, and you're gonna be the best possible person that you can be. You're gonna be shocked. You'll be so shocked. You'll say, how the heck did I ever live through that? And how the heck do I feel so good right now? You'll go sit out in your yard and let the sun hit your face and just say, thank you, God, that whatever that was, it's over.
I tell you, I know you're going through some challenges with having histamine issues with the kefir, but one of the biggest game changers for me, Jeannie, was the ability to add back in dairy. I see Chelsea Lynn is talking about raw. Unfortunately, I can't get raw in Bermuda. I'd love it if I could, but dairy, as we know, with its high calcium, helps to bind up that oxalate as it moves through the gut, doesn't it? So if you can tolerate dairy, it's a really, really important thing to be adding in there.
Yeah, well, the devil's not going to let me get away that easy. Yeah. All right, so I was having a great time with the kefir, and I was riding out to the farm and getting the raw milk, and I'm loving this. And then all of a sudden the brakes went on. I was having histamine issues, but I blame oxalate for everything. And I know that when it works its way out of my body's going to be able to handle things it never could handle before. Okay. So whatever, I don't care. Even if I can't eat dairy, I'll take my calcium, before I go to bed, I take it. And if I'm eating, I take whatever, because even if the only thing I'm left with is a little piece of steak, I am alive and I can go and walk 5 miles and I can talk to you instead of feeling like, oh God, I want to die. So whatever it is, I'll take it. Okay.
Yes.
I'll take it.
Yes.
I
Jeannie,
mean,
sorry, go ahead.
love you too, KTF.
KTF
Listen,
235.
235. Yeah. I do. I love people. I love that God is giving me the opportunity to be able to share this. I love that it works. So many things don't work, right? They
That's
say,
it.
"Oh, try this. You're gonna be this. You're gonna be that." This actually works. You get
Yeah.
rid of this stuff out of your diet, and for younger people, or people with children, I'm just going to tell you this: if you think that you don't have any issues with oxalate, you're warehousing it, whether you believe it or not. And somewhere down the line, I think I put up a little thing of a train this morning. Did you see it? The train was going across the bridge. I'm having a great time. And then all of a sudden, the bridge collapsed and the train went in the water. That's the trajectory of oxalate. You're tooting along, thinking you're just fine. You might not have any symptoms. In fact, Sally says the biggest symptom of oxalate toxicity is no symptoms.
That's it.
And then one day, your train is going to go into the water, the bridge is going to collapse, and you're going to say, what in the heck is going on? And then you can call Jim and I, and we'll tell you. Right?
That's it. And Jeannie, that allows us to segue very quickly into a couple of questions from people. This is a good one. So Turquoise Mariposa asked a few questions about the high and low oxalate list. I think we touched on that. And then you just kind of covered, she asked, why do some people react with spinach, joint pain, and others don't?
Because
and then
it hasn't caught, the devil hasn't cornered them yet. But it's coming, okay? It's coming. And you know what? Honestly, where I am right now, I didn't even realize I felt as bad as I felt. Sometimes people walk around thinking what's normal, that they're feeling normal. Oh, I'm a little dizzy. I just don't feel off today, whatever. And all of a sudden now, I'm like, I haven't felt good for 30 years. And now all of a sudden I feel really good. And I realize how bad I felt. So you're eating spinach and you're eating nuts and you're thinking you're doing just fine, but maybe if you didn't have the spinach and the nuts and the toxin, it's a toxin, it's a poison. Whether or not it affects you in a way that you think is really bad or not, nobody needs to eat toxin. It's poison. So you don't feel good. You don't really feel as good as you could if you're eating all that stuff. And even if you, like I said, even if it hasn't hit you yet, it's coming.
That's it. I tell people, you're in a way, you're lucky that you're not feeling anything now, but the best thing is we can just warn them of the dangers, don't we? And and say, look here, listen to what I'm telling you. It's just a matter of time.
People are like, I'm a little older. I can't open the jar. Well, I got no news for you. I couldn't open a jar either, and now I can. Okay. Yeah. I couldn't lift my arm. I was like, oh my God. Two or three of my sisters had to have the whatever that gets jammed in your shoulder scraped out in an operation. Yep. I was like, oh, I'm heading there. Guess what? I don't have that pain anymore.
Before I leave, this is one last question for you. And Chelsea, I see you there. And thank you for coming, by the way, today and submitting the question. Chelsea Ann had a really great question, Jeannie, and I don't know the answer, but maybe you do. She said she wanted to dig deeper into the use of plants and flowers in skincare products. Any thoughts of oxalates on that and how they affect, especially for women?
I don't know. I don't think we should eat anything that's has any kind of chemicals in it. But I do know this, and you'd have to ask somebody that has more knowledge than I do, because I'm kind of, not that knowledgeable about stuff like this. Extracts and things aren't really a problem. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So correct. Sometimes you can take a turmeric extract and it's not going to have the same effect on you as if you were eating the actual turmeric. Correct. So I don't know whether or not that applies to products also. If something is if a natural product is made with something that has an extract of something in it, I don't know. Don't worry about it. Get the spinach, the nuts, the potatoes, the tea, the chocolate out of your diet, and we'll worry about whether or not natural shampoo has a problem with oxalates. Trust me, if you get rid of the oxalates out of your diet, you're going to start feeling better right away. Right?
That's it. I just in a movement to more natural stuff and eating a more what I consider ancestrally appropriate diet by adding animal foods primarily back into my mouth. I've also switched to a lot of skincare that is the same way. You know, there's a lot of skincare products out there that are made from tallow. I use that now, and you know,
I put it on my face. I put the tallow as cream on my face.
That's right.
You know, I'm not, because I have chemical sensitivity really bad. I mean, I can smell, you know, somebody's shellacking their deck down the street from me. I can smell it. I mean, so I don't have any, I use vinegar and baking soda and that kind of stuff to clean now. And I used to be like, you know, using Fabuloso, you know, inhaling all those fumes because I liked how everything smelled, but no more. So everything's natural.
One of the questions, and this is a good one that Willow258 asked is, are there any tests that can be done to determine if oxalates are affecting your health? Now, Jeannie, I think I never tested mine, and you talk about best testimonies that changed life, and we'll finish off by talking a little bit more about some of the symptoms people can expect if they have oxalate toxicity. But I think it was Great Plains Lab that used to test for oxalate levels. If I'm not correct, did you ever have your test done?
No. You know what's the best test for oxalate? First of all, oxalates are affecting you, whether you feel it or not. So let's get that one off the table, okay? People are, how do I know it's affecting me? Poison is not good for humans, period, okay? So we know it's affecting you. You might not have symptoms yet. Great Plains does that oats test, the organic acids test. But Sally will tell you that all of these tests, even if you do a urine, you know, a 24-hour urine test, if you're not actually in the cycle where you're actually, the urine is being dumped, I mean, oxalate is being dumped into your urine, you might miss that and come up like you have no oxalate. Oh, you're fine.
You got it.
You have some spinach pie. It's fine. No. So the best thing to do is your NT told you that the high oxalate wasn't a problem? Okay. Give him a message from me. When he needs help, he can speak to Jim and I. We'll help him. We'll refer him to Sally for a consultation. My primary doctor is now, in fact, today, she's watching a podcast with Sally and Steak and Butter Girl, because she's asking me how. I went to her from when I was 26 years old. I used to go in there every single week. I would be like, what's wrong with me? Please help me, please help me. And she'd be like, you have anxiety. You need Xanax. I'm like, no, something's wrong with my body. Well, now I haven't been back in a year. When she did see, she's like, what in the, you know? So now she has a sister who has kidney stones and Crohn's. Her daughter has Crohn's. She has breast cancer. So she's listening to me, my doctor.
Yeah.
I'm like, that'll be $450, please. No. But
let's take a second, Jeannie, and really plug our dear friend Sally's book that's coming out soon.
Yes.
I mean, let's talk. I mean, this lady, God bless her, and has found the time not only to reach out to you and I personally and help us in our journey, but countless other people. So make sure you go and visit her website, sallyknorton.com, and also be aware that she has her book coming out entitled Toxic Superfoods. And I think, Jeannie, don't correct me if I'm wrong, it comes out at Christmas time, I want to say.
Yeah, I think the other day she said they moved it to December 27th.
Yeah. So, folks, make sure you go on. You can get on Amazon and pre-order it after the live today.
Or anywhere. You can get it anywhere. You can pre-order it anywhere that books are sold. And we need to order it, and we need to give as many reviews as we possibly can, positive reviews, because the world needs this message. I'm just going to tell you this one thing and then I'll stop talking. Please, God.
No, please, please, please.
I just wanted to tell you, just out of curiosity, I'm a researcher, so I look up, I'm constantly reading, and looking. And so I did like a project on my own. I'm not 100% done yet. And I did, maybe, I think I might have 100 celebrities that were vegan and vegetarians. And then I looked up what they suffer with, their ailments. And then I looked up their actual diets, and then I looked up what they are suffering from, how it's actually tied to oxalate. And I have it all documented. I'm working on it. I'm working on that. And yesterday I saw Leanne Rimes with Dr. Amen. Did you see that?
I did.
And I wrote them. I said to Dr. Amen, I hope you talk to her about oxalates. I said, because it causes anxiety, mental health problems, and the psoriasis that covers her entire body. Nobody responded. Do I have to go back there and be a real nudge? I'm going to have to go back there. I'm going to be like, listen, I'm from Brooklyn. You better respond to me. No, I was like, you can talk about mental health all day. And you can talk about anxiety and depression and brain health. If you're eating a vegan diet and you're covered with psoriasis, you need to change your diet and your brain will get better. Yeah. Your anxiety will go away, your psoriasis will go away, and you'll be a whole new person. If you're not going to mention that to them, then you're wasting your time.
Totally agree. And just so people know, some of the stuff that I suffered with in terms of symptoms, primarily digestive, horrible pain, constipation. I had blood coming out of my stool. I suffered from carpal tunnel syndrome, which I thought was at the time severe fibromyalgia, tinnitus, the ringing in the ears, which it was so bad. Almost completely gone. It will come back now and again, and when I'm dumping, but it's other than that, it's gone. And hallelujah for that, because it drove me absolutely insane. It was so loud, that ringing.
That's my niece. Yes, yeah. You can eat fish, Melissa, but listen, you're going to have to start eating more than fish someday, okay? Your knee got better because you listened to Aunt Jeannie, but you're going to have to listen to Aunt Jeannie a little bit more, and I love you.
Yes, listen to your aunt, the low-ox grandma, please.
Go ahead. I want to finish.
No, yeah, but those were a few of the things. And a couple of little tips, what I employ, we didn't get into. I also do infrared sauna. I have it sitting right here beside me now looking at it. I'm actually going to get into it after we finish speaking today. Epsom salt baths, big one for me as well. Huge. A little tip for someone that Sally gave me when I went through a huge wave when I first went carnivore of dumping, was particularly brutal, is using black tea, double tea bagging the black tea to have a strong oxalate to stop that process. So Sally, I got onto her. I said, Sally, what's happening? I feel terrible. She says, get a black tea, double tea bag, and really make it strong.
I'm being annoying when my husband goes, honey, please drink some tea. He's like, please, just drink some tea.
That's the code.
Yeah.
Couple of other things I wanted to touch before I let you go, Jeannie, is that another thing that Sally taught me, and people should be aware, she recommends that people do not get chiropractic or massage treatments at least until a couple of years after you decide to go low ox, because I'll tell you, I was in so much pain. I thought massages and chiropractic adjustments were going to do me well. But what happens is these manipulations of your fascia, and they start releasing all those stored oxalates. I was feeling terrible, worse. I couldn't figure out, why am I feeling worse after a massage and chiropractic appointment these days? And that's exactly why. So just for folks to realize that.
Another thing that people should be aware of too is that if you've had any surgery, so now I've had surgery everywhere. I won't mention the unmentionable parts of my body that have even been operated on, okay? What happens is when you're healing, when you have any kind of a wound or inflammation or whatever, oxalate is attracted to that area. Like I said, thank God for Sally. So my abdomen, where I had all of these terrible surgeries, when I'm dumping, it actually feels like everything's twisting. And Sally told me, she said, when the oxalate comes out of a wound, the fascia actually twists. Oh. And I'll tell you what, it's happening. It was really bad a couple of times. So of course, my natural propensity, just because of who I am, is to like catastrophize the whole thing. Like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to have an abortion. Oh my God. You know, and then all of a sudden I'll tell Sally, and she's nice and calm, and she'll say, it's the fascia twisting. It's because you have a lot of oxalate. It's inflamed or whatever. And 3 days later, I hate that about her. She's always right.
Always right. Always right.
How obnoxious. Wait till the whole world finds out she's right.
So, Jeannie, this is a good place, and I'm so, again, conscious of the time. Thank you so much for being here today.
I love talking about it. I love talking about it with you. You're an inspiration to me. The fact that we can even relate about something so horrible, but also about something so wonderful, right?
That's it.
We have a horrible experience to share, but we have a glorious healing that we can share. And our voices together can say, listen, there's a way out of this hell. And we got out. If you'd like to get out, we'll show you how to get out. We'll help you. We'll lead you in the right direction.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Carnivorist Chats. If you've made it this far, I want to say thank you for listening, and also thank you in advance for liking, subscribing, or sharing this episode. Thanks again to the good folks at Carnivore Bar and Equip Foods. Don't forget to check the link in the show notes to get a discount on their products. And also, don't forget you can book me for a 30-minute carnivore coaching session through Avero Health. Again, the link will be in the show notes. Until the next time, be well.